You ask how to react in the face of so much toxic news everywhere we turn. Macron says le pire est à venir. You ask how can we persevere in our spiritual path when the present situation is triggering so much fear. It is precisely in such dramatic situations that the spiritual life is especially significant, especially urgent, crucial. In some ways, the spiritual path goes hand in hand with transforming suffering and difficulty. The recognition that the human condition can generate such horrors is a reality that is found in every century, in every generation. And whether we were born at the time of World War I or the Crusades or any other of the catastrophes of human history, it is more likely than not that we find ourselves during our lifetime encountering such trauma. The spiritual life is a state of being. It is precisely the eye of the hurricane. It is paradoxical peace because our understanding is such, our consciousness is such that we transcend the overwhelming reality that is external to us. That is not to say that it is not felt and wept over. It means that there is a quality of our sense of self that is linked to a dimension of the eternal. Because even at the height of such drama, there is also another reality, a greater reality, that cannot be forgotten. If one were to lose all the beauty and art and poetry and music of life because of the dark forces of human depravity, then we would be betraying what life is, giving it over to this lowest form of behavior. And it is precisely this inner peace, this staying connected to a greater sense of what life is, a greater experience of this vaster life, that we can bring peace and wisdom into such a dramatic situation. For us to do that, we need to recognize that no matter what happens, no matter how many fears, the reaction of fear is, to a large extent, the unknown, worrying about what direction this could go, imagining scenarios, and inflating our fear, even if there is a quality that is understandable and justifiable of this fear. It is magnified by all of this other projected concern. If we are no longer focused on our own welfare, but elevated to a state of objectivity and serenity that is not moved by the constant news, the constant fear within and without, then we can be a place of compassion, peace, and sanity in the midst of the insanity. To do that, we must disengage with ego, or the lower parts of ourselves, even a certain primal self-preservation. That does not mean that we don't do necessary things to exist, but we are not lost in that. In fact, all of this human drama can intensify our grounding ourselves in a deeper place within that transcends everything, including our mortality, because it is fully conscious of the vaster life that continues on, regardless of the situation, and of the consequences of the human condition. There is an element of dying to oneself, dying to the lower self, in order to be free to live in this transcendent presence. Out of this alignment with the deeper truth of life, we can more fully help others who cannot find their way there and who are continually traumatized by all of the fears, anxieties, reactions that are understandable but cannot devour our lives. This kind of spiritual presence in the midst of human drama is seen over and over again across human history. It is that presence of light in the darkness that assists those in the darkness. Remember that we cannot control these situations after the initial shock and surprise of it occurring. We then have to make the effort to return to our deeper selves, even more urgently than before. Now we are faced with the danger, brevity, madness of human life, and the most important thing to do for us is to accept the unacceptable so that we can, with mindfulness and serene wisdom, not only live through it without having our true life stolen by these dark forces, but we can make a difference to others who have no tools, no knowledge or understanding as to how to endure this without losing their minds. Perhaps it is necessary to find your way back there, to give yourself 15 minutes of no news, just so that you can reconnect with the silence, the presence, your deeper center, and be strengthened to go back out into all of this toxic environment. In terms of faith, it is important to remember that faith is not God will take care of this, and if He doesn't, there is no God. Faith is precisely that transcendent way of being and knowing that gives us another kind of understanding. We see and think from another place, because it is a rootedness in a spiritual dimension. So faith has nothing to do with the questions that are no doubt circulating, how could God let this happen? And those ancient misunderstandings, if there's so much suffering, there is no God. No, God is the compassionate presence that you are meant to be in the midst of the human drama. You become that force of unconditional goodness and mercy and compassion and transcendent endurance that inspires others and that retains human nobility, especially in these times of the manifestation of the lowest of humanity.